fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality standard.
Fuck you!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. It's Blockbuster Summer, Andrew, to my left. It's Blockbuster Summer, Kyle, on the... What satellite phone are we using today? What sponsorship?
Not a satellite phone.
It is today.
Yeah,
It's a direct connection from God.
Oh,
It's the God phone.
he supersedes satellite technology. Excuse me. Wow.
It does.
My mistake.
How
Sorry.
presumptuous of you to assume God's a male.
You know, that's just the sexist in me. So I've been conditioned by society, so don't blame me too much.
You really have been, haven't you?
Yeah. So have you, and so has Chase, whether he wants to admit it or not. So we're all
No,
conditioned.
I'm a completely unique individual with my own personalized view of what the world is, and it's very nuanced. and
Wow, that's
unique.
really cool for you. How awesome. I envy you so much.
I don't envy either one of you. But Kyle is via the God phone, I guess, today. So,
Jared's phone?
yeah. Well, that goes back to a prior episode. But Kyle, before we get started today, I want you to tell me how you're feeling in action movie terms.
Give me an action movie term that you're talking about.
Oh,
Like
Futuristic action movie.
Futuristic action movie? Like, are we going for like genre and like how it feels, or
Yes.
today's like a really bleak utopian future where there is no art and there is no pleasure, and it's only working to use other humans as fuel. And the only way you can survive is by liquefying your neighbors into some kind of thought jelly that makes you really happy in your brain head. And there's no vocabulary anymore. Everything's very gray, and there's no music. But they have Taco Bell. So
I've seen this movie. It's Happy Feet 2, right?
Happy Feet, this is the precursor. This is Happy Willie.
Oh.
I heard that movie was going to be really good.
It was very good.
The reason we talk about a dystopian society is we watched Demolition Man.
Oh. Whoa. Sick.
This is sick, bro.
Yeah.
We don't have Burger King to talk about this week, do we?
We got Taco Bell. at
We do
some
have
point,
Taco Bell.
Which
So
is arguably better than
Almost
Burger King.
absolutely
So.
sure they did not sponsor this one.
Actually, believe it or not, when we get into it, I have a fun fact about that
Ooh.
because I thought the same thing.
Give me all the fun facts, Daddy. I want them.
We are always going to be talking about fast food on Hold Up, so
Because we're fat people from the South, right?
that and we're Americans.
Yep, Americans.
But we
from
watched,
the heartland.
But we watched Demolition Man. Andrew, what knowledge of Demolition Man do you have, or had you had in your childhood?
Absolutely none.
Exactly.
None
So-
whatsoever. So when I saw this, and I was kind of surprised at how many like stars and like big names and faces
There's a
were
lot
in
of
it.
big-
There's huge.
There's big-
You got obviously Stallone, you got Snipes, you got Sandra Bullock, you got Benjamin
Lady
Bratt,
Gaga,
you've got Bob Gunton, you've got Cobb. What's his name? You have the guy who played Cocteau was like a extremely famous like British like stage actor, like one of the best ever. Dennis Leary. Like there's so many big names in this
It
one.
was a who's who of who,
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
kind of thing. We'll skip you since you haven't seen it, but Kyle, I want you to start us off. What do you remember about this movie when you were a kid?
It was on USA or like TNT a couple times, and I watched it on a weekend. I like bits and pieces of it, and even back then, it was like I was like, this isn't really a fun movie. It's kind of like dumb, and it doesn't really. It's I felt like it's supposed to be like a movie that's supposed to make you think about something, and it definitely doesn't make you do that. The dialogue, like, and there was so much cursing in it that like they used to do that thing where they would dub over the person speaking. So if they said shit, they'd say shoot. Or like say son of a something. I don't remember. Or like you could just clearly tell if they were cursing, but they were saying like polite words instead. And that was most of that movie because half the time they're cursing, and the action sequences were meh. And yeah, it just didn't really make any sense. Even back then when I was like 10 or 11 watching this movie, maybe 12.
Yeah. I was going to say, I do remember this being the TNT special every Saturday night at like 9:30, 10:30. I think even like later than that. Like now it's like if you're watching TNT late on a Saturday night, it's like the Harry Potter movies or something.
I saw Shawshank Redemption was on. I don't watch TNT very often, but like 3 weeks ago, I was scrolling through. Shawshank was on repetitively for like 10 hours straight.
Yeah, this was one of those movies that was on almost every weekend.
And honestly, some of those TNT or USA movies that come on at that time, it hits pretty good. Like, I'll be honest, sometimes.
It's drunk movies.
Yeah.
You're pretty much just at the end of your night.
Or you're just with your family and you want some background noise on.
Drunk.
Yeah, casually paying attention, but like not really.
Casually sipping from the flask.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was one that my mom loved. So she watched it all the time. But and I only saw it as the edited version on TNT or TBS or whatever they were showing it on. So I think this is the first time I ever saw it in its full form, which is, it's something. But I loved it as a kid because I just, it was an action set piece, after action set piece, a cool, futuristic, but not too far in the future kind of movie. So as a kid, I was enamored by it. They also had toys for this movie. Kyle, do you remember having toys?
I don't remember having them. I remember seeing them in like a Kmart or something, and like it was Sylvester Stallone with a stupid beret and like some dumb gun and like that weird shit at the end of the movie. That ultra like super basic sci-fi kind of shit that didn't really make any sense. I remember that stuff being there, but like I don't remember the actual like having one.
Yeah. So this movie came out, what, 93?
93.
So I would have been 2 years old. So I missed the toy boat on this, and I obviously didn't see it in theaters or anything. So I was definitely the kid that caught it in the early 2000s, late 90s when it was just circulating on TV. And that's about the only knowledge I have. But I do remember my mom watching it almost every time it came on. And that was a big thing in our household, especially like on a Saturday night right before we went to bed. And then seeing the edited version. But the edited version, to Kyle's point, like those movies that they edited for TV were some of the funniest things that you could ever watch, just because of the creativity they get with like putting those words and bleeps in.
Honestly, it pissed me off watching it. Like it's funny at first, but then when you want to get the full experience, you feel
fudge you, man.
You
fudge
feel you feel blue balls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it got better over time because then they stopped like trying to fill in the words and they just like censored it or bleeped it out altogether. When they were trying to like figure out the appropriate words to put in there, you would be watching something like Alien and they would hit you with something and just take you right out of the moment.
Yep.
Some of the worst editing things. Before we move on, though, we do have to talk a little bit about Sylvester Stallone and his impact to action movies. This is his first time on our show.
Good old Sly.
He was still pretty high and mighty in the action genre at this point, right? I think he was doing Cliffhanger at the same time that he was filming this movie because they released like very close together. And Cliffhanger would go on to be a massive success for him. And action movies at this time were kind of taking a turn a little bit. We were kind of coming off the 80s. This very much, Kyle, if you agree with me, is an 80s action movie.
Yeah,
for better or for worse. Yeah, it's like very tongue-in-cheek, very like off the wall, and a lot of it.
80s action movies, even if they were sci-fi, made more sense than this one did. It took very much the action aspect and like the casting and the cinematography and some of like the dialogue from the 80s, and then just put it into like 90s story writing, and it's kind of annoying, honestly. They don't really mesh very well, but it is definitely very much an 80s action movie. I would agree.
And it kind of carried over from the 80s. It feels like it exists in a time it shouldn't exist. It's like trying to like oil and water, to your point, a little bit, especially with like, they're trying to add that 90s flair to an 80s genre, and it just, some of it just kind of felt like a little bit off. But the movies like this were not being made as frequently in the 90s. We saw it hit a crescendo with Sylvester Stallone and Schwarzenegger in the 80s, and even Steven Seagal kind of came in the 90s.
Fucking Steven Seagal.
Which, believe it or not, they wanted Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme in this movie, and they both turned it down because they both wanted to play the hero.
Well, that's probably for the best.
Yeah. Can you imagine how bad this would have been with Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme?
God. That would have been like Batman and Robin levels bad.
That gives you hemorrhoids to think about.
Yeah, that makes my head want to just dissolve.
Preparation H would have sponsored this movie instead of Taco Bell. But they were the big stars at the time, and the action movies were kind of like starting to slow down a little bit. Like in the 80s, you had everything was being made into action. Like we reviewed one with Action Jackson, which, we have to do a little shout out to George, right?
Yeah.
That's appropriate.
So
it's warranted.
This movie is a George Howard Adams recommendation. You can go back and listen to our episode we did with him on Action Jackson.
Great movie.
He's in Superman. We can finally tell everybody he's in Superman.
The new Superman.
That's dropping today.
Yeah. Apparently, reviews are pretty solid.
Yeah. Early reviews. Go out tonight, catch it, see George on the big screen. We are very proud of him. So, George, if you're out there, thanks for the recommendation. But moving on, Andrew, can you tell us how well this action movie did?
I can, but I want you all to guess.
All right,
As
Kyle,
you
go
always
first.
do.
Kyle, go
so
first.
give me your domestic guess. Collectively.
You want to start with the budget?
Yeah, I'll give you the budget. There's not an exact number. It's anywhere from 45 to 77 million.
Okay.
That's literally, it's all over the place.
That's an interesting budget.
Yep.
With all the star power, too, that's probably majority of where that budget went.
Yeah, it's probably on the higher end, is my guess, too. Also, the special effects and just everything, the explosions and all
Set
the
pieces.
set pieces and whatnot. So we'll say like 70 million. I think that's a fair compromise. But domestic, there's domestic and then there's worldwide or international. So give me your guesses on domestic.
I'm going to say for domestic, probably somewhere in the ballpark of, for the opening weekend or altogether.
Altogether.
I'm going to say 50 million.
Okay. Chase, give me your
doing
best
an opening?
guesstimate here. Yeah, we're doing domestic opening. Domestic, not opening, domestic gross.
With the star power that this movie has in it, and action movies were still hot at the time. Cliffhanger was coming out, I think, shortly before that. Maybe was it before or after? I can't remember. But I think they were within 2 months of each other. I'm going to say this was on the higher end. I think it made its budget back at 70 million.
So domestic, it was only about 58 million altogether, but internationally accrued like 101 million. So altogether, it was like almost like 168.
On just opening weekend.
No.
Altogether.
Altogether. Opening weekend, domestic was like almost 15 million. It did pretty well.
For the time, yeah. 93.
But roughly 160 million
So
altogether.
it doubled its...
Yeah, it was a success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this, it is a cult favorite. A lot of people think this is one of the better Stallone movies out
There's
there.
a lot of people on Reddit who like jerk off to this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it's got a crowd. It's got a lot of following to it. But we talked about Stallone. Do we want to talk about Wesley Snipes in the 90s?
Fucking love Wesley Snipes.
how can you not?
He is great in this movie. You can't take that away from
He's
him. in this.
funny.
Yeah.
I don't really know what his character's motive is. I don't think he necessarily
He's
has
just a
one.
maniacal idiot.
He's like the Joker. Yeah, good old Wesley Snipes. Sad he had to go away to jail for an extended period of time, but
Was this before Major League?
I think so. Let's do a double check on that one.
I was trying to think about how big of a star he was.
Major League was 89. Excuse me. So
Wow, so this was after.
this is 4 years after. Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, he was a big name. I
Yeah.
feel because his resume goes way back.
He was kind of the young Stallone at the time. I think
Yeah.
he was the next big action star that was like breaking onto the scene.
But he had so much more capability than just being action. You know what I mean?
Blade.
White Man Can't Jump was a year before this. So, like, he was doing some shit. Like, he's good with comedy. Like, he's a great comedic actor, as you saw in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
he can do it all, man.
Yeah, I mean, his character, like you said, was all over the place, but I think he played the character how it was written
Yes.
as well as he could.
Yep.
And then we had another up-and-coming star in this movie, Sandra Bullock.
Good old Sandra.
America's sweetheart, right?
I know, right?
Like, you just can't say anything bad about her, but she always plays these doofy characters.
She played such a dumbass in this one.
Yeah.
It pissed me off because I do think she's talented. She's done some.
Again, she played the character well.
Yeah,
It was just written
It
poorly.
was written so poorly.
But I think she gave it her all here.
Yeah, she did.
And
then,
this was after Speed. Speed kind of kicked off her career, and Speed, I think, was 91.
Yeah.
And then, so I think she's not far into her career at this point, but still like a household name.
Bob Gunton, who was the warden in Shawshank, like a year later, he was, chief colonel or whatever.
Chief Dipshit.
Bill Cobbs was the older gentleman, the guy that Spartan recognizes when he comes back from the cryo, and he's been in tons of stuff dating back to like the 50s. Benjamin Bratt, he's Senator Organa in most recent Andor. He's in other stuff too. That's not just his claim to fame.
Miss Congeniality.
Miss Congeniality, duh. Yes, he was the
Stupid
opposite.
Swine.
Yes, he was opposite of Sandra in that one. And we're forgetting another one. Oh, Dennis Leary. Like,
how could you not?
God.
Yep.
But anyways,
that's Demolition Man right there. That's your whole cast. I thought everybody did pretty well in this movie to, set a bar here acting wise. I don't think it was poorly acted. I don't know how, Kyle, you feel about that, but
we'll talk about it.
Possibly,
I have opinions.
I think it was poorly written, but not necessarily poorly acted.
Let's. Why don't we dive into the fucking play-by-play? Why don't we get into this shit?
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Kyle, where does this movie start?
We start in a very unrealistic scene. We're flying over L.A., and there's just gunshots. Like, it's an active war zone.
Well, I mean, that's not too far off.
It looks
I'm
it looks like L.A. if L.A. was Baghdad in 2003.
That's pretty far off. All the people on the right love to give
of course,
L.A., Chicago, New York,
of course,
the worst rap ever.
But like,
and it's bad, but it's not that. If you compare it to other places in the world,
it's not that bad. You have your pockets, but not the entire fucking metropolitan on fire.
Well,
I mean,
and to be fair, we were 3 years in the future, so they were just projecting LA.
96, baby. That was a tough year. Tough year for everyone.
So. I'm going to get into this more maybe at some point, but this movie was very much what one side thinks of the other, and it's just so played out, like this trope of like civilization ended, and it ended in L.A. or New York, and because it's the cesspool of America, it's just the worst.
Food's great, though.
So they're flying in on a chopper, on a Chinook, and it is the quietest helicopter in the world.
You can hear their conversations pretty damn clearly.
Speak freely at each other, and it's so annoying. And he starts going back and forth with the helicopter pilot, who will, I guess, come back in later. He very much doesn't he come back up later? Isn't he a character later on?
I can't remember.
I forgot about him. If he did,
he was a terrible character then at that point.
He was unrecognizable.
I think he was the black guy, and he was like, "You were a great flyer."
Oh, it was a different
catch.
It was him and his younger self. Lamb, I think, Sergeant Lamb or whatever.
Yeah. Anyways,
Bill Cobbs was the older version of him, but yes, go on.
Anyways, it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. They fly into this fucking airport, and apparently it's been like annexed by a criminal, Simon,
who has the firepower of a small military, maybe
to deny air access and whatever. It's just fucking comical.
The only people that could take over LA like that would be a foreign adversary, honestly. Maybe.
Yeah. And
like without nuking it, yeah. Like,
and he has a bus full of hostages.
30 plus hostages, like up to 40.
And
we never see.
We don't even understand how he fucking held them hostage and drove them to this location and did what he did with them.
And it's the only building standing. Everything else is like
deteriorated,
rubble or ash.
Yeah, like a bomb went off.
So it's just like an active war zone.
And in this helicopter, Stallone's character,
John Spartan,
great name. He's getting ready. He's got his fucking beret on, his little black beret. Puts it on, kind of gives it the little.
Kyle, does he have an airborne logo on this beret? Like, it doesn't kind of make sense.
I didn't catch it. Even if it was, it wouldn't make any sense. You don't know what entity he represents or whatever. It's just so lazy.
They think.
And
go ahead.
He jumps out of the helicopter. We get onto the ground, and he just has a pistol in his hand, a little fucking sissy pistol, 9mm. And there's people with automatic weapons around him, and he's just jumping, twirling, shooting, running, explosion, gets inside of this fucking warehouse airport place where the criminal Simon is, and
he kills like 7 goons, like 7 of like Simon's
Yeah.
goons, just like sneaks
and
up on him.
his pistol never runs out of ammo. It's just fucking whatever. But they finally greet each other, and we see our villain, and it's Wesley Snipes.
And he does a couple lines of cocaine before he gets into the action.
Naturally, as one does.
Yeah,
as one does.
That's
And-
Wesley Snipes'
and he-
career.
But before John Spartan gets up there, you see Wesley Snipes pierce a barrel, a
multiple
metal
barrels, multiple.
with a knife, and they start leaking a liquid. Come to find out that liquid is gasoline, because when he's confronting him, he's like, "You better not shoot, otherwise you'll go up in flames. Is it cold in here? Is it just me?"
How maniacal! How forward thinking! What a super genius!
He's trying to figure out where the hostages are. He's like, "They're all dead. Don't worry about it. They're all dead. You can take me in, whatever. They're all dead." So he tries to light them on fire.
And here's my thing. If you were really the real Demolition Man, you would just shoot the gas yourself and kill both of you. And you would go down like as the hero that you are, just to take out this huge criminal threat that's apparently taken over cities.
That kills the plot, Chase. So no.
Well, it was a short
You
movie.
silly little bitch.
Daddy.
Well,
Can't happen. Logic is going to be defied. So.
Well, we're defying logic. What happens next, Kyle?
He tries to light them on fire. They go through this whole fucking dumb little fight scene. He gets captured. They walk him outside. And by they, I mean Sylvester Stallone. But then he confesses that he let the hostages were there the whole time. He let them die.
Because the building explodes.
While they're still in it. They should have died when they were walking out of it.
But Andrew, that would defy logic there, and the movie would be over.
You're right. That's a plot killer, so that can't
happen.
Yeah.
They calmly get out of the building as it's like toppling over on top of them.
And I mean like tons and tons of like fiery, explosive, billowing flames. But, they come out unscathed. And yes, as Kyle was saying, Simon now says to the police, you just killed all the hostages. I told him on the inside, blah, 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 blah. But he didn't want to hear me. He just wanted to get me out and put me in custody. He fucking sacrificed all those hostages. And of course, like, all of like the commanding officers around like took a maniacal criminal's like word to heart, and they're like, how could you Spartan? And then
he was like, I didn't see anything on the thermal.
There were no signs of body heat on my thermal scanner, yada yada yada.
Which I want to make mention to at this point, while they're arguing, stuff is shit still exploding in the background. And I'm just like, there's more explosions in this opening scene than there are a Kentucky Fried Chicken bathroom on a Saturday night. There is just absolute explosion after explosion after explosion after explosion.
That was vivid, Chase. Thank you. We've all been there. And while they're going through this discussion about, Spartan knowing about the hostages and Phoenix telling him that, Spartan's pleading his case, like, that's not true. That's not true. And then some guy, some like pencil pusher cop, like comes out of nowhere. He's like, there's bodies everywhere. They're falling from the sky. There's parts falling. Oh my God. And then
doesn't he say the exact number of bodies? Like they were looking at 30 hostages. There must be 30 hostages over there.
Yeah, and then all of like the commanding officers once again, they're like, you really did it this time, Spartan. How could you breach your own power to come down here? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just, why don't you let it play out in court?
There's going to be no court that would convict him.
Quickly. There is no court date, but we get sent to some like lab, some like sterile lab.
My God, does Sylvester Stallone look ripped though, as he's standing there like shirtless in this lab?
Beautiful, man.
You can even see his torn pec.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
It's very true. And he's standing there, and they're basically already convicting him. Not even in front of a judge, telling him he's going to be cryogenically frozen and rehabilitated while he's frozen.
For how many years?
70 years.
Yeah.
70. That's just when he gets parole.
Yeah, this is 96 is when he's going under, so.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest legislative action program that's ever been created. The amount of money that it would spend to do that versus help people who are fucking like critically ill, like until they find a fucking cure. Let's use it on criminals. And let's rehabilitate them in the process 70 years from now into a world they won't know. That won't be shocking at all. And we'll just waste trillions of dollars on this, which is probably what it would take. There is no technology that exists that is like that.
Well, now, Kyle, this was all a plot in the Reagan administration. How do you think he got elected? This was his whole thing. He was going to freeze all these criminals, and then they were going to come back as sunshine and rainbows. They were all going to come back as Judy Garland.
Isn't Walt Disney frozen somewhere?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Ted Williams?
Yeah.
Yep.
His head,
Yep.
anyway.
Yep. Good stuff. Love him.
So then he's getting frozen, and we see the montage, the credits go back.
Very interesting method they used for their cryo chambers.
But basically drown him first, and then they flash freeze him like fish sticks, and he's
naked and he's hot and he looks good, and he looked better than Steven Seagal would have, no matter what shape Steven was in at that time. So yeah,
I would say round would be the shape that he would be in.
He was probably in an okay shape, but it's like a tub they put him in, like a cylindrical tub that's not too deep and not very wide, so he's kind of like scrunched up while they pour this liquid in. It was just odd. Like, I don't know, cryo chambers, you saw that with like Alien and other movies prior. You're laying in like a bed that fills up and you kind of zip yourself in. This was just so... They were trying to be different.
Yeah,
I didn't love it.
Make sense. I couldn't tell if they were trying to drown him, and they did, and they just suspended him in that state, which would be like...
Yeah, because when you suspend him, right, and that, like, he's got water in his lungs, so does the water stay in his lungs? Like,
no, I know there was one when they were researching this. Like, there is like a way that you do it where you are essentially breathing a liquid because it's so oxygen rich. But like it would be very hard to like get the person to keep on breathing it. You would have to like have them hooked up to a machine or something. And at that time, like, why wouldn't you just put them in a medically induced coma? I don't remember the specifics of it, but it's something along those lines where it's like a breathable liquid is like the only way that realistically they found they could actually do that, because freezing wouldn't really work without killing like cells or something. I don't know. But either way, I mean, this was not that. They're just putting him in like essentially just some kind of electric ice machine, and he just slowly gets frozen in water.
It's like one of those Island Oasis machines your dad used to make pina coladas with. That's basically what he is. And now we're getting introduced now to Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
It's her introduction to this movie is basically her talking to the warden on a video call inside of a Tesla Model 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely a Tesla.
Which is weird, because those cars really did look like Teslas.
They did. That was one thing that I
think
was like,
the writer and director need to sue Elon Musk for this, like, because obviously he had inspiration. But she's talking to the warden, and the warden's basically talking about the parole hearings that he's got for the day. He's going to unthaw people, but they're giving context into this world that we're in now. What is it, 2039?
2032. And we're in a different city.
We're in
it's not
major
LA
city.
It's not LAPD, it's SAPD, which stands for what? Anyone want to tell me?
Lead the way.
San Angeles.
Which is a combination, a merger of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Santa Barbara.
Yeah, massive city now.
You know, it is conceivable that in 20 years that all three of those metropolitans, I mean, Santa Barbara is not far from Los Angeles, and San Diego is only like an hour or two south of Los Angeles. So like they could merge together, you know.
There's also a fact in there that they throw that there's the big earthquake of 2010 that kind of merged the mass together.
Was there a massive earthquake in 2010?
Did
they predict that?
Yeah, they will. I don't know.
I don't
possibly.
I don't think so.
But they
there
do
was
say
one in 2011, wasn't there?
Probably.
There's
one like every year.
Yeah, it's not hard to predict. But
not.
they called it the big one. They said, "Oh, that got swept away in the big one." In fact, later they tell, we'll go ahead and say it now. John's wife died in the big earthquake. Is how they tell him.
Hey, we're not there yet.
But
you're ruining.
You're
spoiling things.
So we're learning that this society is basically crime free. Everyone is kind of. How would you describe the people in this city, Kyle?
They are like bred into a society that is free, absent of any kind of violence, malice,
free will,
or any kind of ill will.
Independent thought.
Yeah, there's no individualism. there's no expressionism. There's no way to. There's a free free speech. They don't have access to things like their speech is actually policed. They get fined if they curse because that's something that could lead to violence.
It's a fascist utopia.
So yeah, essentially. But like, yeah, utopia is a good way to put it. But like, it's very controlled and it's silly. They don't have anything that's like.
It's a watered down society.
It's what Walt Disney had thought of when he pictured Epcot. Is basically it, or
Sure.
Tomorrowland, whatever.
Tomorrowland, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
he was calling it, like, because that's what he wanted was to police like what you can do in your own town. So we're seeing it. These people are they're all like smiley, happy-go-lucky. And what's their phrase in the city?
I don't.
Be well.
Oh yeah, be well.
Be well. That's like their greetings. But Huxley, which is Sandra Bullock's character, she wants some action, right, Andrew?
And she is a SAPD police officer. Don't forget it.
Yeah.
She's a female police officer in this new regime, in this new era. Yeah, she fantasizes about the 20th century and culture before the big one, before the big change of everything. Before the utopianism settled in. So she longs for action. She longs for a change, something to shake up the doldrums of now their.
And you got some people that are older that remember what everything was like, and the cryogenically frozen people are being so like, I guess therapy's taken over, so everyone's just brainwashed at this point.
Yeah. But
we do see, as she's driving through, we do see like a little camera come up out of the ground and look around and spray some graffiti on the wall.
Great special effects there.
Great special effects.
Great use of technology as well, might I add.
Yeah.
They should have just
with that, like a fucking pipe bomb. Like fucking manipulate one of the cars to make it like a terrorist mobile. Like you could do a lot of shit with that. But let's fucking spray paint. What would they even spray paint on? There's something stupid, ridiculous, and dumb.
something like freedom or something. I don't
It was dumber than that. That's
Hold
like
on.
classic. Find it, Andrew. Find it.
It was
I wanna know.
something
It
really
pissed me off.
stupid.
It actually physically pissed me off.
Yeah, I thought.
And
the
it was
same.
only there for like a brief moment before like the wall like cleaned itself off.
Yeah,
so it was
but
like
how did that happen, Chase? How did it get like that?
It was a complete waste.
Oh, come on, it was life is hell. That's what it was. Life is hell,
Wow.
spelled with a Z. Yeah, and then it was
what was spelled with a Z?
the S.
That's how everything in the 90s was, Kyle. That's what made it cool.
Yeah. And then they spray painted it onto this front surface of the building, and then some like electrical currents like miraculously just removed it within seconds.
So
Great special effects. It was very
Great.
believable.
Loved it.
But hey, this leads us into a big plot point here. So
we're talking about the warden now, right?
we're going back to our boy Simon Phoenix.
Yeah. The warden is thawing people
Yes.
and giving them their parole hearing, and he meets Simon Phoenix.
Yeah, he comes in through the gates. Got a couple guards behind him. He's kind of unlike
very mouthy.
very mouthy. He's speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
Fluently.
Bad Spanish.
Which, I'm not sure how he got that or what logical reason he.
I will say this about this point of the movie. So, in long story short, he learns the password to the cuffs and breaks out and basically kills
everyone.
He kills the two guards and rips the eyeball out of the warden so he can use it for the retinal scan so he can escape. But at the time I was like, how the fuck did he know all this? Like, what is going on here? How did he figure all that out?
It gets explained.
And it gets explained later in the movie. But at this point I was like,
okay.
I do want to bring up something though in this scene.
Yeah, bring it up. Come on, let's hear it.
Is at this point when he starts battling the two guards who also have never fought or had any type of physical training because they've lived in this society where all they do.
The way that he grabs the one guard by like the cuffs, you'd think that he like throat chopped him. It just incapacitated him.
And then on top of this, like as he's hitting the guards, you hear these like weird like skateboard 90s noises like and they're just random, and it reminded me of like anytime you were playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
yes.
and you would get like the videotape or something and make that weird noise and it cut the music
I
out.
thought the same fucking thing, dude. I'm so happy that you brought that up because I was literally thought that while I was watching. I was like, that sounds so familiar.
And you know that was just like half-ass thrown in there for the kids.
Half-ass, yeah.
But then that was before Tony Hawk as well. But
yeah.
But anyway, it was like such a 90s scene, and just the little sound effects made no sense at all. But
anyways,
he escapes,
kills all three of them, and then we get back up to like the police station, and they start getting alerts. Like a 187 is like the code, and they're like
murder, death, kill.
What is that? Murder, death, kill. That's what they call a murder. I guess they have to tack all three of those descriptors on.
And the computer's doing all the work.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do any police work at all because they haven't had to.
They've succumbed to AI.
Yeah.
They have.
It's happening, everybody. But they're like, what's a 187? Murder, death, kill. Like an MDK.
Yeah, they called it an MDK. How fucking stupid. But yeah, and then they get like a close up of like the bodies, and it shows two deceased, and the warden is like almost dead, and it's giving like critical like life updates by the second.
He had like a massive amount of like internal injuries or just physical
just
injuries.
From getting kicked in the stomach and the groin and the face by Wesley Snipes, or excuse me, Phoenix.
He had like an exploded liver.
He kicked him pretty fucking hard. But after that, he leaves the penitentiary, the cryo penitentiary, and steals the warden's car and makes off.
He killed another doctor and stole his car.
That's right. He stole the doctor's car and then drove off. But excuse me.
The funny part about all this is they're just tracing all this down. Like, this man is just murdering people out there, and they're just like typing shit into the computer, and they're like, where'd he go now? What do
we do next?
And then Sandra Bullock's like, I got an idea. Hey, computer. Or what did she call the computer? It doesn't matter. She's like,
it doesn't matter.
She was like, is the doctor's car like low jacked? Can we trace it? And the computer's like, we can. It's on this route to this thing. And they all celebrate because they're like, yeah, we got him. We got him. And they start like doing like the little high five with it. And Rob Schneider's in this movie, by the way, everybody.
He forgot about Rob Schneider.
How could you forget?
Making this random appearance in this movie. I imagine he was just like, you can do it. But like so they're tracking the car and they're looking at it through like through the traffic cams, and they see the car stopped, and they're all like giddy. They're like, yeah, he's just going to surrender. We're going to arrest him. What happens next, Andrew?
Simon Phoenix, he gets out. Obviously, he goes to some computer because
it looked like a suicide booth.
Yeah, it was almost like also like an ATM with like a whole bunch of buttons.
And there was a guy in there. He's like, "You look great today."
Yeah, and he's like, "Man, shut the fuck up!" And then he gets fined.
Which I did think that this was a funny part of the movie is like the little computers that would fine you if you cursed, because no matter what, they would talk normal, and you would hear that thing go off in the distance, like, you've been fined 1 credit by the SAPD. And it kept going off anytime that they would say any type of curse word. And so Simon's just getting, like, fined left and right in this thing.
Yeah, and at this point, he goes to this computer because he now has super hacking abilities. So he can hack any computer, which, helps him override, the city system and gather information about... I think his main goal is where can he find weapons? Because he starts asking, the computer, where can I find weapons? Where can I get this? I don't exactly know. He
said, where's the fucking guns? He's like, you've been fined 1 credit by the SAPD.
Whatever.
Just kept...
I was going to say that part was starting to get a little old for me by the end. I wish they would have picked and chose their moments a little bit better, because it was just a little too much.
Repetitive.
I get it. I 100% agree with you when it happened like straight on like that. But there's a scene where they're like in a building, and Sylvester Stallone starts cursing, and they're trying to have a serious talk, and you could hear it in the background, like on low key. I thought that was funny, but I agree with you, Kyle. It was too much at this point because he just kept going and going and going.
Yeah. The joke landed at first. You don't have to run it into the ground.
It was just run out. It was played out.
Whatever. But yeah, Simon Phoenix gets some information. He finds out where the guns are just by hacking whatever computer terminal is out in the public. But he also gets confronted by SAPD. There's like 6 of them that are there to arrest him. And at this point, we talked about how apprehensive the SAPD officers are and like how they don't know how to deal with violence because they haven't been trained in it. They don't know any combat whatsoever. They're using the like little computers, like little like iPads in a sense, to give them instruction as to how to apprehend a criminal. And so
Yes.
the one lead officer gets instructions to firmly address your criminal and give him commands to lie on the ground.
Demand the perpetrator get down on the ground.
Yeah, and he does that. And
Simon Phoenix, get down on the ground.
and they do it a couple times, and then Simon Phoenix just beats the shit out of him. Just
Absolutely.
like pulverizes them. Probably busts a spleen in a couple of them, breaks some legs, a neck, a back. You know, they're all on the ground. They're incapacitated, and he gets away. He just steals a car and fucking drives off.
Well, he has the taser rod, too, that they were carrying because they don't
That's
have
right.
lethal force, but they
Yeah.
have like these little taser cattle prods.
They can like knock you unconscious if
Yeah.
you hit correctly.
Right, but most of the time they don't even know how to use those. But he shoves one of those in one of the cop cars and it explodes and just takes out like half a city block. So Simon Phoenix is on this, like he's probably killed like 12 people already in like 30 minutes of this movie.
And he's not phased at all.
No.
He just needs to get
He's
to his
enjoying
next-
This is
it.
part of his like demeanor. He's
He's a complete
just,
sociopath.
You know, chaotic evil.
And he's like, and I do want to go back because this is a huge plot point. As he's typing in, trying to find the guns, he's getting this like, I guess this flashback in his head where it says, "Don't you have someone to kill? Don't you have someone to kill?" So you can kind of tell he's been like rehabilitated to kill somebody.
Programmed in some sense. It
Yeah.
says they don't come out and say it until later, which was stupid. But yeah, he's been programmed to carry out some sort of mission.
Which it starts making sense on why he's able to hack all this stuff because now you're like, oh, he's been
But
programmed.
it wasn't patently obvious to someone who had never seen it before.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fucking dumb. And then when they explained all that shit, which we'll get to, it was like, oh, okay, wow. That
Lazy
was
writing.
Really lazy way of creating some sort of elaborate scheme here. But whatever, I digress. So yeah, at this point, Simon's killed a bunch. He's violent, and SAPD doesn't know what to do. So Huxley, Sandra Bullock, was like, hey, we should defrost a Spartan. He's the only person who's going to know how to deal with this kind of aggression and violence.
Right. They decide that John Spartan needs to come back from his cryogenic sleep and be, because he's immediately eligible for rehire on the police department.
Immediately.
Immediately.
They dress him up. They give him their stupid new uniforms.
5 minutes into him like realizing his wife is dead.
His child. We never even heard about what happened to his child, right?
No. And
No, like no
didn't touch upon
sensitivity
it.
training. You know, here's what I think. I think that he doesn't. We never find out who his daughter is. I think it's Sandra Bullock.
I like that. Yeah, that's some good old family fun there. Family loving, if you will.
We'll get there.
Hey, we never find out what happens. So you gotta assume I'm dumb. Otherwise, I'm gonna assume that.
Yeah, that's that is the quote of the episode, Kyle.
God damn.
Oh my God. Put that on the box art. She's explaining now at rapid pace what kind of society he's like coming back into. Like there's no contact sports, no spicy foods, no anything, like to Kyle's point, like where it can, nothing that could even inhibit a thought of violence can be allowed in this society. But Kyle, what happens after they kind of put him up to speed and he doesn't know how to use the seashells in the bathroom?
He starts cursing profusely so that the machine gives him as many tickets as possible to then go wipe his ass. Bull.
They give him the talk through, tell him his wife is dead, his daughter's probably dead, but you're back in the force.
Well,
and
they
active,
did
and
tell him his
he
wife
goes
is
take a
dead
shit.
in a big earthquake that we mentioned earlier.
Whatever. But then he goes and takes a shit like 5 minutes into being reanimated. And here's the deal. Like, why would he be wanting to take a shit after all of that? Did they have a massive meal before he went under?
Exactly.
You think they would fucking clean out his system before they put him under so the acids
Well, he
wouldn't...
wouldn't even have any food in his system.
He wouldn't. That's the point. That's so fucking
He's not
dumb.
a mummy.
No.
Is that
You don't eat 10 fucking Nacho Grande burritos before you go under and cryo sleep. You probably clean
Well-
out your system.
Even if
get
you
in
had the
beforehand.
burritos, you were cleaning out your system in the cryo.
I guess, but whatever.
What if see, there's a part of me that wants an outtake where he gets flash frozen and it turns brown. That would explain a lot.
There's just so many questions here. Like, what would even like the consistency of his shit be at that point? If he had shit after 30 plus
Liquid.
years, yeah, it would be
Liquid.
liquid. Of course it would. But anyways, he comes out of the bathroom and he's like, "You didn't have any toilet paper," and they're like, "Oh, oh, he's so cute. We haven't had toilet paper in 20 years." You got to use the seashells.
They obviously make fun of the man that's been in like cryostasis for like 40 years or 40 plus years at this point.
It's just so dumb.
Yeah, and the whole like 3 seashells thing, like I'm sure whoever wrote that probably thought it was hilarious, but it hit a wall. That was not funny at all to me.
What 3 seashells? Like what does that even mean?
Yeah, what is the point? Like, what are you getting at here? What's the significance? Like, it was never even explained.
Which would have made it funny.
It would have, but they never did that because idiots wrote this. But again, let's move on before we get caught up on more shit. So
They basically told him Simon Phoenix is out and causing a ruckus.
and he immediately remembers who Simon Phoenix is
Yeah.
because his last run-in was that building that blew up and he lost hostages.
And not everybody's on board with him being there.
No, most are like, this is a disgrace. He's a caveman. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to ruin our society.
This barbarian wants to kill that man. And so it's like so you get half and half. Huxley's all in on this. She's ready to go. So she volunteers to take him out to, I guess they have a bead on where Simon Phoenix is going.
Well, what they're told by the computers is Simon Phoenix will probably start his next drug underworld. Look underneath the city. And Spartan's like, no, he's going to find weapons. That's fucking stupid. I'm not going to listen to your stupid computer. He's looking for weapons. And what was he doing? He was looking for weapons because he found out
Where?
the city museum.
So there's no guns in the city, too.
There's nothing.
So it's all in a museum, which
Preserved.
The museum part looked kind of cool, though. But as they're driving to the museum, too, he's like, "You look tense, John Spartan. Let's listen to some oldies." And what do they play, Kyle?
I don't even remember.
It was like the fucking Wiggles shit.
No, it was like old commercials.
But it was like
old-
Wiggles music. Like
it was
like children's.
It was like the Oscar Mayer Wiener song. Like
Yeah.
it was like, I think like what did they? I was trying to remember some of them, but they were like just the awful jingles we heard as kids, and they're public domain, so they use them at like length here. But they go to the museum. I thought the museum segment looked kind of cool because it's like a very futuristic museum, but the part of it is like decorated, like the exhibit looks like old New York or old Los Angeles, I guess in this case. So you have like a taxi cab there and like some brick wall neon signs.
Yeah,
and
they
then
have a special exhibit for the 20th century.
you don't really see that kind of in any type of action movie. Like, yes, I get the cryostasis and stuff like that. That's pretty standard for a sci-fi movie, but
I guess it was cool, but it didn't really have a huge purpose. It didn't, wrap the movie for me. So like, yeah, I guess it's cool, but like, whatever. We're only here for
I
like
enjoyed it.
5 minutes whatsoever.
yeah. So basically, this is when they meet up again for the first time, and Simon Phoenix and John go one-on-one. And
Well, first, Simon has to get into the warfare section, and he starts kicking the glass, and he can't break the glass because it's strong glass. But if he takes a human body and throws it at it because he weighs more, the glass is gonna shatter. Oh
my God.
What logic? Oh, so cool.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and, he breaks the display, and then there are all these weapons that are just magically loaded with tons and tons and tons of rounds of ammunition.
I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because that was my big thing. Where are they getting the fucking ammunition for this ancient pieces of equipment that nobody uses anymore?
You would think in this little fascist utopian society they would remove the ammunition from these guns before they load them up
what
into
did he
a
have,
fucking
Kyle?
display.
He had like an Uzi too, and in that Uzi had like a
He had like a couple guns. He had like an ASP. He had a Beretta 9mm, another 9mm pistol, and then there was a fucking G11. And I'm like, what?
Hell
the
yeah,
fuck?
brother.
would pick up and be like, this is the one I want to use. The really complicated prototype they only made like less than like, I don't know how many copies of. And I'll use that one that has really weird ammunition and a way to load it that nobody knows how to load. I'm going to pick that one. That one. Yeah, good stuff. And then proceeds with, does he even have a duffel bag of anything?
No, he's just carrying it all on his person.
He's got his big hands. That's about it.
So dumb.
And nothing, he never has to reload, which is the stereotypical 80s action movie phenomenon. Bruce Willis never reloaded his Beretta in Die Hard. I think he fired.
Go look it up. No, he did.
I think he fired like
look it up, Chips.
56 rounds before he actually dropped the mag and reloaded it.
That might be correct. He definitely reloaded it.
And like I know for a fact the henchmen in it were firing those MP5s like they were nothing. And by that I mean they were just unloading round after round after round after round. I know it was an extended mag, but like at the same time, what is that, like 32 rounds? And they were firing easily 80.
31.
Yeah, 80 to 100 easy and never
You could get an extended magazine for those, but they weren't using those. So
no.
Exactly being, get it right, Hollywood. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, or let's make every Hollywood movie like that where you don't have to reload the guns. But anyway, he gets the guns. Him and Spartan have their first face-off in the future, and they're just blowing the shit out of this museum.
They're blowing each other.
Collateral damage everywhere. And at one point, Simon Phoenix escapes and runs into, what is this, the mayor of the city, or is this just he's the
like fascist dictator in a sense.
Yeah, he's like,
but it's never really explained how he came to power or why he did what he did.
He created the cryo chambers.
But why does that mean you have to create a utopia as well?
Yeah, so he's like, he's just worshipped. We see that with some political leaders, but he's just worshipped by idiots. But
they all love him.
They all love him. They think he does no wrong, even though he does plenty of wrong. So, like, Simon Phoenix goes to shoot him, too, and he stops. Yeah, and he can't seem to pull the trigger.
Yeah, he just can't do it. And it's not like he can't actually do it. It's like he won't. His body will not allow him to follow through. And it was pretty obvious that he was withholding from killing Cocteau, whatever the fuck.
Cocteau.
Cock Tower, excuse me. Yes, big Cock Tower. But yeah, he doesn't kill him, and then he runs away, and then you see Spartan take all of this in, and he's kind of perplexed as to why Phoenix, a madman who just kills relentlessly, didn't kill this old dude in the middle of his way.
And Simon Phoenix runs away, and they're like, let's go to Taco Bell. And that's when we're introduced to Taco Bell, because here's this madman who's murdered. At this point, he's getting in the hundreds, and he's blown up a museum, which is a federal building, and on top of that has blown up half a city block, and he's on the loose, and they're like, let's all go to Taco Bell. I want to thank you for saving my life, John Spartan. He's like, Taco Bell? He's like, well, that's the only restaurant that survived the franchise wars, so it's the only restaurant that can be a restaurant, I guess.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'm not going to question that whatsoever. I'm just going to take it at face value and run with it and say, yeah.
And here's the point,
that's how it goes.
Here's the point, Kyle, that I was going to get to earlier. So believe it or not, if you watch this movie in any other country at the time, it was Pizza Hut. And not Taco Bell.
I did read that, yes.
Because Taco Bell, they were worried that non-American audiences wouldn't recognize Taco Bell, so they used Pizza Hut in the other versions.
Should use KFC, honestly.
But Pizza Hut and Taco Bell are owned by the same franchise group.
And KFC.
Yeah.
Yum Incorporated.
Yeah. So
Frito-Lay or PepsiCo, right?
Yeah. So this was definitely a sponsored campaign
Yum
by
Incorporated, Kyle. Get it right.
Oh, Yum Incorporated. I'm so sorry,
It's
Andrew.
okay.
I'm really sorry.
I'll let it slide.
But anyway, so yeah, that company did sponsor this movie and made sure that they used Pizza Hut worldwide so that other countries would recognize the fast food chain. But again, it's the only restaurant that exists now.
Yeah, whatever. Well, fast forward to Taco Bell. It's like some like fancy like Miami like nightclub vibes. There's tons of like cars on the
like
outside.
5-star restaurant.
Yeah, like people are pulling up and they're super
Valeting.
nice. Teslas getting valeted. Yeah, you walk in, there's chandeliers and carpets and just it's a nice sit down, very nice sit down, like state of the art. And then they're served their food, and of course it's like
Nachos
tiny
Bel Grande.
Yeah, it's not that at all. It's like the tiny little dishes you see at like 5-star restaurants that are worth like $150, but you get no nutritional value out of it whatsoever. That's what you're getting there at the new Taco Bell.
Is it like an inflamed duck turd or something like that?
Sure. Why the fuck not? But what happens next? They're eating there. They're talking.
They're insulting each other. Like Spartan's insulting the fascist leader, and he's trying to explain to him why no crime is good. And he's like, well, what about independent thought?
Yeah, what about jerking off and watching porn?
Yeah, like... He's like, that's freedom. Like, this isn't freedom. So they're going back and forth on this, and then he spots somebody on a motorcycle.
Wait, doesn't he? Before that, he asks for salt, and they're like, we don't, no salt. It's not good for you, therefore it's illegal. And I thought that was just so fucking...
Definitely like 90s nutrition advice.
Yeah.
Like, fat and salt are bad. Don't eat carbs either. Ice cubes.
Ice cubes and lime juice only. So he sees this guy on a dirt bike outside,
but he also sees that thing pop up from underneath the ground that we saw that created the graffiti display earlier. It's this weird device that has like a mirror facing down, so whoever is lifting it up to the main surface can see what they're, what's out in front of them or what's above them. But he sees that along with the dude on the bike, and he's like, "What's going on?"
Or he's just like, "I gotta go." Policeman's hunch.
Yeah.
And he goes out there, and then what happens next? Like, it's just a bunch of like another action sequence where people are flying everywhere.
A bunch of hoodlums from down below
Yeah.
start to take over the streets and like start
riding
to
dirt bikes and
create a riot essentially.
and things are getting broken, cars are getting smashed, some more explosions. So like, it's just chaos at this point.
Yep.
And John realizes one thing about these people, and what's that, Andrew?
I don't know. What does he realize?
He realized that they're just stealing. They're starving. They're just stealing food.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, he has a conscience. He's like, you want me to arrest these people for just trying to eat? And at that point, he kind of is anti this ruler, dictator, fascist leader, whatever you want to call him.
Cock tower.
Yeah, cock tower.
Cock tower.
So, and at this point, he goes home with Huxley. Everything's been kind of settled. He goes home for the night with Huxley. Again, Simon Phoenix is on the loose. Like, a murderer is on the loose who's already murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah, we're going to get to him after this little incident with Huxley.
He gets to Huxley's apartment, and she's like, basically like, hey, I'm horny. Do you want to have sex? And he's like, yes, I do.
Fuck yeah, I
you're
do.
Sandra Bullock. Yes, I do.
Even though I still haven't gotten over my wife, I found out that she had died,
He got over
8
her
hours
pretty quick.
earlier,
Yeah.
but I want to fuck tonight. So
yeah, and so Sandra Bullock's like, okay. And so she's like, sit down, I'll be right back. And he's like taking off his shirt, this weird like little shirt, and like flexing, and his arms are massive in this shirt. It looks like he's about to explode out of it. And she comes back with a Quest 2 of them, and puts them on her head, and they basically have virtual sex.
Yep.
And how does she explain this to him, Andrew?
First of all, he's like, so are we going to like touch or kiss or anything like that? And she's like, no, we can't do that. We can't
Transfer fluids.
No, yeah, she keeps referring to it as a transfer of fluids. It's not sex. It's a transfer of fluids. Fluid transfer, whatever.
Idiots, get it right.
I'm so
you come to my house, you get my wife's name right.
You transfer your fluids with my wife.
But yeah, she's pretty much like appalled that he would even suggest that he would kiss or penetrate her. And she's like, this is what we got to do. And he's like, this is fucking bullshit. And
He tries to kiss her.
he tries to kiss her, and she's like, no, get out. And she points like definitively like out her door, like get out. And he like leans in again, and she's like, no, you leave. And so
And then he goes and knits a sweater.
Yeah, he goes to the extra apartment room down the hall, and
Looks like a conference room.
yeah, whatever. He goes in and knits a sweater that night.
A full sweater.
Yeah, he's in deep contemplative thoughts and doesn't exactly understand what he just experienced. But Yeah, he knits a sweater because he later learns that part of his rehabilitation is him being good at knitting. Make it make sense. I don't know, but that is
Must be a calming activity.
Yeah. But that leads us to an important point here. So we're talking about rehabilitation. We should talk about who programmed Simon Phoenix's rehabilitation.
Because Simon Phoenix meets up with the Cock Tower.
Cock Tower, yep.
Yeah.
Cock Tower!
And it's revealed to us that Simon Phoenix has been brought back from cryogenic sleep by Cock Tower.
Cock Tower.
He has his rehabilitation that they later find out in their car driving is that he has been given superhuman abilities, computer hacking abilities, excessive like anger and violence and all sorts of shit. Because it seems that Cock Tower wants to use Simon Phoenix to kill someone.
And what's his master plan, Kyle? Who does he want dead? Is it the Pope? Is it like another world leader?
Is it Ayatollah?
Edgar, friend.
Lee? Edgar Friend Lee, right?
Yes. So, yeah.
That's Dennis Leary, by the way, who we saw outside the Taco Bell yelling and giving directions for whatever fucking motive they have to steal.
Their motive to steal food was because he lives in a society underneath the city.
The ground.
So
they reject the utopian society.
Right. And they're like starving and they're trying to just make a way. So like that's the person, someone so powerless and he wants him dead. So
I should say the people who live underneath, they have a name. Like their civilization.
Straight trash.
Did y'all catch the name?
No.
The Scraps.
Oh God.
Yeah, that wasn't
totally
really
blanked on that.
That wasn't really said, but it's on Wikipedia, so I trust it.
The Scraps.
Yeah, they're called
the scraps of society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they live
Makes
in the
sense.
sewers of San Angeles or whatever.
San Barbara-less.
Yeah.
So Simon Phoenix realizes he's trying to kill that man. So now he's making a deal with Cock Tower. Right? Like
he's like, you need to kill Friendly or I'm going to put you back into cryogenic sleep. And Simon's like, okay, I'll do what you want, but you got to kill Spartan. And he was like, don't worry, Spartan's going under. He's going back into cryo sleep soon. Yada, yada, yada.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've summed it up really well in a 20-minute scene that you've narrowed down there.
So this Cock Tower guy is some fascist leader who has somehow manipulated all of the metropolitans of Los Angeles and Santa Barbara and San Diego that they have to live this way. They need to abandon their free will and their desire to do anything they want and succumb to modern technology and just be mindless babies. But he also has this incredibly genius and forward-thinking plan to use a cryogenic criminal, Simon Phoenix, to kill the people who stand against the society he's created. Essentially.
Well done, Andrew.
There's no backstory as
Kyle,
to this guy rose to power. But yeah, let's hear it.
Kyle, would you give that man a Pulitzer?
No, I wouldn't.
Newbery Gold Medal?
And then we get to the next day. Spartan, he apologizes to Huxley and gives her the sweater. She's smitten over the sweater. So like all the wrongdoing he's done, which is nothing in this point, but he is just taken away.
So they start to investigate his technological skills. As I was saying, they discovered that Phoenix's rehabilitation program was tailored by Cock Tower to make him more dangerous. Unhappy with Phoenix's progress, Cock Tower threatens him, like we said. Back in that meeting with Cock Tower, and Phoenix demands that he gets like a gang of like 6 to 8 more people.
He's gonna need them, and basically he's trying to take over this underworld or like whatever.
He gets his new defrosted criminals in his gang and they go underground because that's where they got to find Edgar Friendly. But then Huxley and they decide to make their way underground as well.
And this is where we get the rat burger, right?
Yeah.
So the underground is where Spartan is like, oh man, this is like home over here because everything's like from the 20th century. People are selling guns and they have like a car there, like a nice car.
But they go down there because of the incident that happened outside the Taco Bell. Because Spartan realizes these people are living underground. This is the next piece to the puzzle to figuring it all out.
Yeah, and whatever.
Yeah.
And so, they do have like a little humorous scene because he's like, oh, a burger. I've been wanting one of these. And he orders a burger. And Huxley's like, yeah, don't ask him what meat it's made out of. You don't see any cows around here. And so he ends up eating it, finds out it's a rat burger, still better than Arby's, loves it.
They don't shit on Arby's. Come on, man. Let's have some
Don't
class
love
here.
Arby's either.
How can
They
you...
have Chase, they have great horse meat. Okay, chill out.
Rat meat.
They've got some decent stuff, and if you
They've
hate
got
Arby's,
good human meat. Okay.
they've got great curly fries. So don't hate too much, okay?
Anyway, so this is when they meet up with Simon Phoenix and his gang, and then they just kind of have a battle, and they kind of thwart Simon Phoenix from killing anybody, basically. So they have an all-out war under net. So now we're just going from one set piece to another, all-out war, set piece to another, all-out war, set piece to another, all-out war. And that's kind of what we're having. This one just happens to be underground.
And, you know, Spartan and Edgar Friendly kind of, before all this goes down, they kind of talk to each other and understand what their world is all about and who he is and how he's not really a bad guy, and how as soon as he sees Phoenix down there, he realizes that these people are in danger, and Phoenix's goal is to assassinate this way of life down below.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, just another all-out war.
And then so Phoenix escapes into a cop car, and then Spartan and Huxley get into what type of car, Kyle?
It's a 1970-something Plymouth, and it's an original, and it's beautiful.
It is
Cherry
gorgeous.
Nice car.
It was a beautiful, beautiful muscle car back before the emission standards went in, I think. So it might have been actually like a 60s, maybe. I don't know. But it was...
Better than a Tesla.
Yeah, much better than Tesla. By the way, if you guys are a fan of Tesla and you love it, you're a daft piece of shit.
I agreed. But anyways,
Really?
we need to get back on track
the
here.
car was a 1970 Oldsmobile 442.
Oldsmobile Plymouth? Mm-hmm. That is...
What year?
1970, exact.
Oh, yeah, right before. That was literally, they designed it the year before the emission standards went in, before everything got downsized. That's a beautiful, beautiful big block V8, baby.
So they escape in that car, absolutely ruining it, and then
Which is a shame.
Taking it on a high-speed chase throughout the city to try to catch up with Simon Phoenix. And where do they end up next, Andrew?
Don't they wind up back at like the cryogenic lab or something?
Yeah, and this is kind of where we're getting into
and then right before they get there, Phoenix orders one of his henchmen to kill Cock Tower.
Right. Phoenix gets there first and kills Cock Tower.
Has someone kill him because he can't do it himself.
Right. He's like, kill this motherfucker for me. It throws the gun, and he kills the guy, and then they just throw his ass in the fire.
Yeah.
That actually cracked me up. It was like pretty funny. And then at that point, now we're getting into the final battle between Phoenix and Spartan.
And they're in the cryogenic chambers, just going at it, just shooting each other, kicking each other. And
Which, Kyle, I want you to talk a little bit about how freezing metal works.
Yeah, you'd have to first of all freeze that metal to the point where it is well below, like, I don't know, 250 degrees Fahrenheit negative, and it would have to be like liquid CO, whatever they put on that kind
CO2,
of shit.
yeah.
Even for it to get close to like breaking. And even then, if it's super thick, you would need something big enough to like break through it. And we're just like, we're freezing shit at this point, and it's just shattering at, like, when you look at it, or if you breathe on it wrong.
It is crazy.
It doesn't really make any. I get like some things, yeah, they become brittle and whatnot, but like I'm pretty sure there are some metals or like, alloys that are pretty good in like adverse temperature conditions, so that like it's not gonna just shatter. I could be wrong.
This stuff was shattering like popsicle sticks.
It was bad. It was more like ice cubes are harder to break than this shit.
So, and what Kyle's talking about is they were basically fighting in this cryostasis chamber, whatnot. Simon Phoenix is trying to dethaw all the criminals,
so he can have just a maniacal world in which he rules.
Right. Now that he's killed the dictator himself, he's going to thaw everyone out and control them. And yeah, he's going to have, now we're going to go the opposite way. But as he's trying to do all this, they're fighting, and John Spartan uses the cryostasis, like, I guess the liquid onto like the machines that are holding him, some like boards, like some of the railings and stuff, and just punching them, and they're exploding into a million pieces so that he can escape. And then how do we finish this off, Andrew?
There's a whole bunch of like cryo liquid on the floor. They've had like
This is a long battle.
Yeah, they're towards the end of their physical brawl though, but there's a whole bunch of like cryo liquid on the floor, but Spartan sees one of those cryo guns that mixed with the cryo liquid will actually freeze something, and he takes it and slams it down at the feet of Phoenix, hops up, grabs the
perfectly timed,
grabs the metal, whatever you want to call it, that's circling around the facility, grabs it.
It's the thing that they use to pick up the ice block.
It's
like a claw.
It's like the claw, essentially. Yeah. But when he smashes this gun into the liquid, it has the reaction and it freezes everything in its path.
Which, how did he know to do that? Kyle?
We just shouldn't fucking question
it's stupid sci-fi. Like, the sci-fi isn't dumb. It's just the fact that, like, we're getting this item that we've never seen.
It's lazily written to get to the next means to an end. That's essentially what it is.
It's just something he picks up and then automatic. Okay, this is like an electric ice flamethrower, and now I freeze everything with it. and now I break this thing on the ground, and one little drop from this undisclosed, indescript liquid drips onto the floor. Now everything is ice. It's like the reverse of gasoline.
It was the exact opposite of their previous run-in in the warehouse where everything was in flames.
And do you remember what he says, Andrew?
No.
Do you remember what he says?
Fuck no, I don't.
He goes, "Is it cold in here, or is it just me?" And then Wesley Snipes he goes like, "Good memory." Right before it's just a way for them to be like, "You see how
what a callback! And what a beautiful callback!"
And also, Simon Phoenix tells John what we already knew, that the bodies were already dead when they were in the fire in the beginning of the movie. Confesses to that, which I was like, we didn't need that confession, that we knew that from the start. Anyway,
but when he slams this down, it's like the opposite of like a cigarette or a match going into the gasoline. Anything that's in the way freezes, and who was in the way but Simon Phoenix, and he automatically gets frozen solid. And while, Spartan is on this claw going around in a circle, he smashes his head and knocks off his frozen head and severs it completely. No, I don't.
How dare you? He says, "Heads up."
Oh, God. Great.
And decapitates him.
Great expose there.
I was stricken that from my own memory. I didn't remember that. Oh, my God. But it was pretty gnarly head smash, though.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
It did look frozen, and then when it was decapitated, you saw the red and the frozen, blood, vessels and blood underneath.
And then the head smashes the ground and just goes into a million pieces.
Shatters everywhere.
He's dead, everybody. He's dead now.
He's dead.
He's dead. And then that's pretty much it.
He gets out of the facility, but it blows up somehow, some way.
Because he's Demolition Man. Yeah. So now they don't have that. They're like, oh, what are we going to do with society? Is society broken?
Cock Tower's gone and the cryo chambers are gone. What the fuck do we do with ourselves?
And the scraps show up and they're yelling stuff too. And he's like, hey, how about y'all meet in the middle? How about you
go take a shower because you're dirty and I just meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and you guys start cursing and I'm going to go over here and make out with my daughter.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He goes and grabs his daughter, a.k.a. Huxley, a.k.a. Sandra Bullock, and does the whole tilt and spin. He profusely makes out with her, and they zoom out and credits roll.
And that's it. That's Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. And I'm proud of us for getting through it that quickly.
We demolished that. Kyle, I know you're going to have a lot to say. Let's talk about your version of this movie when you were a kid versus now.
It's the same. I remember it being something that you think is going to be good based on the previews. There's way too much exposition that doesn't really go anywhere and not enough action, honestly. And the action that is there is poorly choreographed. It's dumb. The acting in the exposition is bad. There's not a lot of great acting going on in this movie. Surprise, surprise. Wesley Snipes is pretty good. Dennis Leary is okay. Sylvester Stallone, you get what you pay for, folks. Sandra Bullock is doing the best of what she has. I don't have anything negative to say about her. No, but like she's good. She's a great actress. This is just not the movie to showcase that, because the characters in that world were so unbelievable based on the circumstances in which they lived. Were silly. They were just kind of, I don't know anyway, the way they talked, the way they sang. It was just a very hard to believe society that would exist in the future. And it was just poorly written, lazy writing. Not a lot of great stuff to say about this one. And I remember that as a kid being like, oh, that was okay. Like, all right, well, glad Predator's on next. Because like this was like,
it was Predator 2 always that came on after this with Danny Glover.
That was even, oh my God, that's even better than this by a lot. But I don't really appreciate this movie now. There was no real redeeming qualities to any of it. Pretty tough to watch. And that's that.
Damn.
Andrew, what about you with no childhood experience with this movie?
I went in thinking that this was going to be like some fun, stupid action movie, and I would enjoy it. Kind of like in same mold as like Action Jackson.
You got one of those three, right?
I don't even know.
Stupid.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I just... Not a lot of it made sense. As Kyle said, the writing was piss poor. The dialogue was awful, which led to some awful acting and awful on-screen moments because the actors couldn't do much with what was given to them. There weren't great motives for some of the villains. Like the thing that bothers me is like, who the fuck is this Dr. Cocteau? And how did he come to be? Why is he so all-powerful and all-knowing? Are we just supposed to accept that as him being some fascist leader and we bow to him? Like, no, there's got to be some sort of backstory, some understanding, some reason behind. We weren't given all of it. We're just given something and we have to accept it. And that's not in my nature to do. I like to question everything and have reason behind all. And it'd be one thing if this movie had just kind of played into its ridiculousness, but it took itself way too seriously. Like, this should have been a farce from the beginning. They should have really overplayed stuff, but they took themselves way too seriously. They thought it was cool, edgy, forward-thinking, and it wasn't. It fell flat on, like, so many levels. And I honestly felt like it was a waste of time. I didn't enjoy it. And I hate to sound like a fucking asshole, but I feel pretty strongly this is not a great movie. And yeah, I rest my case with that.
You know, I'm going to take the opposite stance. I don't...
Oh.
It's
Mr. Dissenter over here.
It's weird because I do think a lot of this movie, especially with its tone, is tongue-in-cheek. I do think that they were going with a lot of those 80s action vibes. It just didn't fit the time period. And to both of your points, the plot that they have, there's some stuff there. I think it does work. It's just they don't do enough to explain it. The villain's motives are very weak.
So weak.
And
it makes me mad.
And you don't get to see how this dude ended up getting in power. I do like the idea of like this utopia. I think the first 40 minutes of this movie is fine. Like, I actually enjoy the first 40 minutes. It's the last half is where it starts dragging for me. Because I like the idea of, like, these dumb simpletons that are anti-everything and, like, have lived in this weird world. And then you get this, like, you know, shot of violence or shot of, like, this grunginess that's just, like, from the 90s, like, empower them.
Yeah, the utopia idea is not a horrible one. It's just... everything around it brings it down. Like, it ruins the movie as a whole. So
it's an idea that they didn't flesh out. Is how I look at this movie. I think 40 minutes in, you're good, and then you're golden, and then after that, it started to like really wear its way because it's an hour and 40. It's not even an hour 30.
I thought it was an hour 59.
That's with credits.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like
55, hour 55.
Yeah,
Suck
so
me.
that is, you shave off 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, you may have like a dumb farce to your point, and you could have a classic. It is still well beloved. A lot of people love this movie. I enjoy watching the first half of it, and then outside of that, I didn't. Again, I don't really blame the performances here, but the writing is very bad.
It's the writing. The
writing is
brings
awful
them
here.
down.
I do think the performances sometimes save it. but it's unintentionally funny at times. And then when it tries to be funny, it's not.
I want to say one more thing. I enjoyed Wesley Snipes' performance, but again, like Dr. Cocteau, like I didn't understand Simon Phoenix. Yeah, they made him out to be some sort of sociopathic maniac, but there was no context to that. You're just supposed to accept it as is, and I don't know. That just bothers me. I don't like being told I need to accept something because
and
I'm
he was
told to.
He was a loner, but yet he was making his own army, and then he was like, it didn't make
controversial.
Any sense. Yeah, and it's Stallone. It just none of it made.
It insisted upon itself way too much.
Every character was very simple. They weren't multi-layered.
So static.
Yeah. We do have to, before we leave, we do have to talk about Sting.
Sting.
Yeah, the theme to this movie. We're 3 weeks in a row right now. We have a theme song for this movie. Demolition Man, the name of the theme song, which was performed by Sting.
Sting's a legend.
It's in this movie a little bit when they're in the cop cars. They didn't play it as much as I thought they would, like Men in Black and Wild Wild West do. But Sting had released a song in 1981 called Demolition Man. And they had him re-record it and add the 90s flair to it to launch it. This song was a very popular song in 93. Just wanted to throw that out there. But
hell yeah, Sting. Keep it real, brother.
They saved this movie, Sting. Kyle, does this movie hold up?
No.
Andrew?
No.
I'll say this is my final point. I do love the mix of idiocracy in this movie, but it does not work. I think this movie just needed more time in the oven. It's hard because part of me wants to say it holds up, but I think out of the runtime, the amount that I'm going to say it doesn't hold up outweighs the amount of time that I said it does hold up. So I'm going to say it does not hold up.
I thought you were going to be a true dissenter today. What a disappointment.
The final hour and whatever, I just could not do it.
Hey, well, quickly, let's give some IMDb scores. I'll start. I'm going to give it a 5.1.
That's higher than I thought you would give it.
What about you? I mean, it has some meat to it, and there's some big names. 5.1 is still pretty low for my standards. So, but Kyle, go ahead, give it something.
I was going to go 4.3.
Damn.
Kyle hated it. I was going to say 5.7.
It is 6.7 on IMDb. There's no way it's 6.7. Step Brothers, I think, is 6.6. Like, fuck off. Granted, very different movie, very different timeline, but still, like, no.
Comedies also suffer a lot, too.
They do.
Comedies and horror movies always
there are
get
so many
great
other
on
movies that I could find on there off the top of my head that are ranked lower.
I would also say there's a lot of movies that are way worse than this.
Yeah, that's why I put it in the 5s.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like, this isn't the worst movie we've watched. It just annoyed the fuck out of me.
Well, and we apologize, George. You know what we do here. That about wraps it up. We reach into your childhood nostalgia. We pulled Demolition Man from your action movie brain and found out you better take it out because it's going to make your brain go dead.
Might freeze you.
Giving you the brain freeze. George, we're so sorry we tore your movie apart, my friend. But we want to invite you on to the next episode. 2 weeks from now, we'll have George Howard Adams back on the show as we look at Con Air. We will see you all in 2 weeks.